Hi guys, Squad here. Welcome back to episode 3 of my sort of playthrough of Transport Fever on hard mode with the ultimate goal of getting $1 billion and connecting all the cities. Subscribe if you want to watch more content, and yeah, hope you're enjoying it so far. In the last episode, we basically discovered or looked at the fact that we have this problem here. We just cannot move this stuff quickly enough. So this is going to have to be replaced by a train line. Now, I don't like to just drop stations in. I like to think about where things are going in terms of the goal, if you like. So as I mentioned in the last video, I think we probably want to have like a station here so that later on we can, potentially serve passengers from there. So in order to put a train station down here, bearing in mind it's got to go down that valley that way, we want something that we can easily bus passengers to when we want to use passengers. But also just it needs to be in catchment of this thing here, which is easily achieved once you know the tricks. Because the problem is if you come in with, let's say you come in, and this is where I think beginners go wrong. So the obvious gambit is to go for a cargo terminal, right? So you come in and you put your cargo terminal down, right? You might stick it here like that. That's the classic thing to do. Just go like that. You've got a couple of problems. First of all, you've not configured your station properly. Secondly, because it's a terminal, you can't do anything else with this. It's going to be stuck right here. And the rest of it, the lines can't go through it. You're going to have to branch off and come a different way when you want passengers. You need to be thinking one step ahead. So what I would propose you do is go with a cargo station, which is not a terminal. Only use a terminal if you're like on the edge of the map and it's not ever going to go anywhere else. So go for a cargo terminal. Always go for something longer. You can go 320 if you want to. On hard mode, I suggest 240 for now. Number of tracks is up to you, but again, because we're on hard mode, I would just leave it on one track and then roll the rest as you go. If we start adding 2 tracks in here, 600 grand. One track, 300 grand. It's a big difference. So let's say we spin it around like that. If we put this down now, I guarantee you it won't be in catchment of that thing. There's no way. You'd have to be connected to the road for it to happen. So what you can do is make a new road and make the connection happen. The important thing really is to just get the direction of travel right, which is roughly hold shift and use M and N keys. So roughly in that direction, because we want it to go around that road, so through that valley there. Looks good. We can either use the chevron keys, which is your kind of left and right square bracket, rectangular bracket, the diamond bracket. If you use those, you can move the platform up and down. Now notice the cost does change. It's a boat that we're not interested in. The cost does change. However, you do raise and lower the platform. The other option is to sculpt the ground, which does cost a lot of money. If you just move it around a little bit, generally you can find a sweet spot. Something along those lines should do it. So we'll maybe go for, just turn it in a touch, 340, 338. Yeah, that should do it. Click that down. Now, when you click on this, it's not accepted by, there's not encatchment of this. But what you can do is go to your road network and just build a small country road. And you're aiming to just draw something. You see these little blue connections here? That means that this road is connected to that industry. So as long as we've got something connected like that, say, then we can do the same thing here. There's a bit of an art to this, but effectively you've got these blue connections to that road, and when you now go over to here like that, there's blue connections there. Those two things are now linked. So when you click on this, it highlights that. Yeah? You see how that works? It's all about the road connections and the little pathways in between. The distance between this and this is what matters. And as long as you've got a road connection, it's not too far away, you can make the two things connect. Right. We've now got platform 1, which is our fuel place. Now, we're going to then need another platform. We're going to need some more money shortly as well. We just spent a load of cash. We're going to come through that way. And what we're probably going to do is try and have a station. We could either go on the outside, which is slightly nicer, or the inside. There's no right way of doing it. There's always a bunch of wrong ways of doing it. The ideal solution is to get the fastest, straightest connection. So if we came in like that, that's perfect, but we need to make a dogleg turn. So it's probably better if we angle the platform this way and then just curve in that way and then curve off that way is what we'll do. So again, train station, cargo station there. Now with this one, we are going to need 2 tracks. We can't get around it this time because we're going to have well, we could use 1 track. We could, but it wouldn't make any sense in this instance. We're going to need to borrow a lot of money. So let's just start getting some money here. It's going to cost a fortune to do this. But the payoff should be we get a lot of money back, right? That's what we're in it for, the profit. So if we put our station down, let's say about here-ish, that's a cool 500,000. And that is not connected, but there's a number of ways we can connect this. We can connect it via this, or we can just do a direct road as we did before. Either or, it doesn't matter. Get yourself a road connection like that, drop it like that, and that should be enough. As long as the path from here to there is short enough, when you click on it, it's all connected. So if you was to drop oil off here, crude oil off here, you could take on a train refined all the way. These 3 things are now connected. If you click on one, it highlights the others. It's an important distinction to know. Right, so that's that done. That line is then going to come this way. We want to possibly have passenger terminal there, or we bring them all the way down here, put a station here, and have a passenger terminal there for them, which is definitely the cheaper option. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll do this, and we'll do a single track, just to keep the cost down, because it's going to be a destination for now. We will expand it later, so we'll kind of build it. We need it to be in catchment there. But we want to have, let's think, we want to have maybe that way round. Kind of pointing off in that direction. These roads, we can always change these roads later. They're going to be a bit in the way initially, but we're not too worried about that. Again, this is, we haven't got passengers yet. We're just planning for the future. This town, like I say, will get quite big. And having a bus route out of town to get a train is not a big deal. Important thing right now is just be able to get this in catchment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a small road like that, just so that we take the guesswork out of it. Yep, there's a connection. So we'll just do that with it. That'll do nicely. Plenty of build area around here. Now later on what we can do is we can put more track on this side and then have a passenger terminus and have our bus station here and just connect them in that way. That's, in the future, not yet. Okay, right, so as you can see there's a bit of an elevation drop here. That is our 3-station in. This is going to be the expensive bit. It's going to be the track. So we go to track. We want a catenary because we want to do electric later. Parallel tracks, this is a mod I'm using. I'm going to say no for now. I will explain that mod later, but not now. We don't need parallel track. We only need a single track. We're trying to keep the cost down, remember. So what we want to do is we want to drag this. Now, there's lots of ways of doing this, but you need to understand what the game's doing at this point. If you drag track out, wherever your dot lands, it will try and draw level to that dot. So if my dot is here, you can see how much elevated it's made the track. If I go further up this slope, you can see that it's building land and the cost is going up, but the track remains flat. If you want to keep the cost down and don't mind a gradient track, then what you would do, you would build it in pieces, and each piece would be sloped. If you want to build it super flat, you would drag it all the way out and let it do its thing. And trust me, it can do very crazy things. So let's just try and see what happens. If we drag it out like this, then it's saying that the track speed limit will be 120, which is normal at this year. This is normal track, it's not high-speed track. High-speed track will be 300. But it's doing really weird things with the road. I mean, not that it really matters, we're going to get rid of the cars anyway. But we can change that if we want to. But the reason is because this track is elevated and it's had to bring that up before it brings it back down again and do everything in between. 579,000. Is it coming in the right direction? Kind of. Probably wants to be more over here. I think going to cost us 600,000 to get to there. Possibly there's a better way through. We could perhaps build one section and then build another section, or we can come in from this direction and see how it goes that way. So if we choose the inside track, we'll go all the way across there. So we can see that's going to cost us 120,000. Let's try that, and then if we was to connect that to there, 590,000, and that would keep it super flat and allow our trains to go up maximum speed. Not that they can do 120 yet, but we'll take that. That's not too expensive. Now, we can either double track it all, or we can do passing loops. It's up to us how we want to do it. We shall bring this out through here. Now, the more you curve the track, or the more inclination it gets, notice how the track speed comes down. So you've always got to look at that when you're designing your layout, because you don't want it to slow the trains down too much. In this era, it's not hugely important because the trains don't go very quickly. But you'll pay the price later when the trains get quicker and your track's slowing everything down. So again, keep the curves to a minimum. Just drag it all the way through to there like that. Now that's doing crazy stuff with our track and the road in particular. So, you know, what we could do, pause the game, and then we'll just delete a bit of this road. That's complaining because we've broken a connection, but we're going to put it back. So we'll just go across like that. And then we'll curve it back this way. Delete that bit of road there and there. Do that. We can tunnel roads, but it is expensive. Back now. Hopefully this will stop it doing something completely ridiculous. There you go. That's a little bit better, isn't it? 220,000. We can't get around this elevation here. We can tunnel that later if we need to. There's a road crossing here, which I'm not happy with. Again, we'll have to change that later. Traffic does give way to us, though. They always give way to the trains. Okay, so what we probably want to do, just to keep the cost down, is have a passing loop somewhere about here. So what we do is we drag the track from there. We drag the track along. And if you drag away, but it does tend to snap. You see that? So we let it snap, and then we drag another section out like that. And then we drag back in again. And again, if you notice the speed, 43, the longer you make it, the higher the speed. It will slow the train down, but it means we're not building and maintaining as much track, which just keeps the cost down initially. That will then go into here, which is a single track. So it's going to go straight through there. But we kind of want to be unloading here. We want to be unloading crude there. At the same time, the fuel train is making its way back this way. So that would slow things down. So what we want to do is probably have another section of track here. In fact, you know what? We probably just want to, thinking about it, we'll just double track it a bit more. So we can do that. Do that. You know, we can double track the whole thing. I'll just have a few passing loops for now. That'll do. And then this thing here, we want to bring this out. So again, we've got this, and then we drop it into a single. There we go. That'll do. And then another long section, and maybe another passing loop just as they come out here. So anything coming out of here can just wait. So we'll drag along like that. Let's try and keep these at about 90 on the passing loop if possible. There you go. Okay. So you could double track all of it, but you're going to be paying maintenance. And considering initially we can probably only afford one train, it's worth trying to save a bit of money. But what we can now do is implement the line. So we'll implement the line, then we'll put the train depot down, then we'll build the train and then deploy it. And then what will happen is all hell will break loose because our trucks are going to try and move the same thing as the train. And the industry's going to get very confused about what we want it to do. Now, when the fuel is brought back, this is what's going to happen. So this fuel is going to come back on the train. It's going to stop here at this platform. This platform is connected to here. So what I propose we do is we then switch these trucks to move the fuel to the town. So these trucks will only move fuel and the trains will move everything else. That's what we're going to do. But for now, on the train at least, it can't get the fuel back anywhere. The BR75, new trains just come out. The fuel can be brought back and dropped off here, but it has no way of getting to the destination yet until we reconfigure that line. So first of all, let's just do the rail line. So we're going to go new line, R for rail. This is going to be Loughton crude oil fuel. So same thing, but for the rail. We're going to color it. Let's color it a dark red for now. It's going to go from here. From Loughton, it's going to only take, so we want to click this and say, just take crude. That's all you're taking from here. Don't move anything else. Excuse me, don't move anything else, just crude. We could tell it to wait for a full load, but we're not going to. I think we'll just have the frequency. Then it's going to go to here. When it gets to Loughton, it's going to load up on oil, and it's going to unload everything that it has, which is crude, right? So the only thing it's going to take from here is oil. It's then going to go over to here, which is stations at Mablethorpe and Sutton, where it's going to only get fuel. It's going to unload all the refined oil, and then it's going to come all the way back to Loughton Central again, where because of the filter it will unload everything and only take crude. So that's the line defined: crude, refined oil, fuel, back, drop, done. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now we need to decide where we want to put a train depot. So we go to buildings and we get a train depot like that, and we can just feed the train depot in here. Say, just drop it in there. It doesn't really matter where. Back to track, drag our track in like so. That is our track. So that means trains coming out of here can drop into this line. Trains coming back this way can't go back into the depot, but generally speaking, we don't need to do that anyway. Now, the only other thing is at the moment, if you notice, what's happening is it's going up and down the same track. It's not using any passing loops, and it's not using both platforms of here. None of this is happening. Why? Well, because by default, the line is bidirectional. It's not one way, and we want it to be one way. So what we do is we use signals. We click on the train, click on signals, and then over here we go one way. Now, we need to be careful here. So when we come down and hover over the track, you can see it points to the direction of travel. So if we was to put a one-way signal down here, it would break the line because at the moment it needs to go up and down both ways, and it can't. So what we want to do is go to our first passing loop, which is here. And I don't know if you know anything about signals, but what we want to do is we want to join, we want to put a signal just before a join or just after a split, generally speaking. So if we put a join there, that's going to allow trains to come in this way, and then they'll have to wait before they join this dual section of track. Similarly, coming back, before they get to the end of this passing loop here, they're going to have to wait, okay? So that's created a block, and if we bring L up again, you'll now notice that they're using the passing loop, which is great. Then we're going to go for the next passing loop, so we do the same again. So we want a signal on this side, and then on the other side, we don't need to worry because there's no actual passing loop. But what we can do is put a signal down just before the station, and then one coming back out again. So if I press L now, you'll see this is what we've got. Now, in between these two signals, that's called a block. So any train that comes into this block here between these two signals, no other train can enter that block going in this direction towards the right. Coming back again, this train would wait at here, and then this would be a block. However, the block only ends all the way over here. So what we would probably want to do is put another signal in, probably about there, just to make sure that when it passes that signal, it releases this block. And the same thing going back this way. We'll have another signal about there. We don't put it here because you don't want the front of the train passing the signal and releasing this block. You want it to kind of have to travel a bit further down because the back of the train is still hanging off into this block, you see. So hopefully that makes some sense. What you've got is this area here is a block that's kind of governed by these 4 signals. So once a train comes through into here, no other train can enter this bit. So this is a contention area. This is going to slow things down, right? But the moment they pass that signal, they then wait at the next signal for the next block, and so on. That's literally how it all works. So these passing loops are just waiting areas before you then get the permission to go on the next bit of track. So the downside of this is that this whole section here can only have 1 train on it, and when a train goes into the station there, it's going to block the whole thing. So it's not very efficient. So as we get more trains, we're going to have to sort that problem out because it's literally not very efficient. Now, coming out of this side here, we've got the same thing. So a signal just before we go into the single track, and then coming back out again, same thing. So that's now a block. Next passing loop along is here. So 1 entering that block, 1 entering that block, 1 leaving that block, 1 leaving that block. There you go. So the passing loop has its 4 signals. This passing loop only has 2 because it's governed by the station anyway. And that should do it. So if we press L, you just make sure that your line's still working okay. I will explain signaling a bit more. When we make this all double track, I'll show you, and I'll show you the mods I use to help out with this stuff. But I just want to try and get the fundamentals sorted. It is a bit scratchy head at the beginning where you're going to go, how's that? I don't quite understand what he's on about. But, you know, you'll get the hang of it as we go along. Don't worry. Right, train. Now, this is the all-important bit. We need to define our train, and then we need to reconfigure these trucks. So we're going to break the industry. This is going to cost us money. Buy vehicles. We're going to want 1 train initially. Now, we don't have any diesel. We don't have any electric. We've only got steam. We could go all in and go, yeah, let's just get this thing, you know, the best train we can get. But what is the best train? You know, what is the best locomotive here for what we need? How do we choose? There's a few things to look at. Obviously, the total cost and the running cost are very, very, very important, as is the top speed and the tractive effort. The tractive effort is how much pulling power it has. Now, when you're dealing with cargo trains, you want a lot of tractive effort. When you're dealing with passenger trains, you want a lot of high speed. You can't ignore either of them. But, you know, if you're going up a hill with a lot of stuff, tractive effort is going to win all day long. If you're on a lovely flat thing, tractive effort will get you up to maximum speed better. But ultimately, with passenger services, speed is king. Yeah? So bear that in mind. But you've got to be able to make this thing pay. So what train, locomotive, an A35 is a lovely locomotive. Bit expensive for us right now, because don't forget we're going to have to buy this and buy a lot of tanks on the back as well. Another good one is the G3. G3 is a pretty good workhorse. It does 50 Ks with a tractive effort of 50 kilonewtons. That's not bad. But, you know, when you can do 100 Ks with 115 tractive effort, you know, it's just night and day, isn't it? Look. But then so are the running costs. 600,000 versus 120,000. So we could effectively have a couple of these, maybe even 3 of these for one of them. So now you're thinking to yourself, what do I have? 1 train doing this whole thing, or like 3 slower trains? They're the decisions right there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go with a G3 and get the line established. We can upgrade it later if we want to. But a G3 is quite cheap and it still runs quicker than our trucks and carries a lot more. Ideally, though, we'd have maybe something like the... Actually, I might just go for the PLM. The PLM is 10k quicker, has a better tractive, and isn't that much more expensive. We can afford 1.6 million, so the PLM's probably our choice. That's a bit too far for us right now. That's got some pretty high running costs. So let's go the PLM 220. We'll stick one of them in the configuration. Then we go to wagons. We want cargo wagons. We've got small tanks and big tanks. Now, the real question is, which one do we go for? And this is where it gets interesting, because we have a locomotive that can do, if we remember, it can do 60 Ks. But our tank can only do 50. So no matter what the locomotive can do, we can't go more than 50 because that's all the tank allows. We could get the bigger tanks and go all the way up to 80 and carry more. But, and here's the big but, this is 420,000 per tank. So if we want 6 of these, it's like 2.4 million. Plus the locomotive to haul it all. That's like a $6-7 million train. And that's only one train. So, really, we're probably better off with these at this stage of the game. They only carry 5, and they only go 50 Ks, but they're affordable. But then you think, what's the point of having a 50K if your Steam does 60? You may as well drop back to the G3, which is why I said to you the G3 is a great locomotive. Get rid of that, drop in a G3. The G3 can go the same speed as the tank cars, and is very cheap to run. It will make money. You'll see. So we'll just put a few of these on for now. Let's say I'll explain all this other stuff later. Don't worry about that. Let's just say 6 on there for now. We need to get the line established. So we'll click that. We'll then color it with a dark red color and assign it to the crude line. There we go. So it will now leave the platform and start doing its thing. Now, we need to switch our fuel delivery to Loughton now. So we're going to go to line, and we're going to repurpose the existing line, is what we're going to do. So it's going to break a lot of stuff because we're no longer moving crude and oil around and all the rest of it. It's either that or we establish a brand new line, a brand new fuel line, and just move trains up. In fact, let's do that. Let's just do that. So we click on new line, go to truck, and we just call it Loughton Fuel. We make it orange. We go from the other platform and we go straight to the destination, which is actually here, but it's on the wrong side of the road. So I'm going to put a new station down. Let's go to buildings. Make sure it's in the right place. Yes, it is. So we'll go to that one instead, because at least the trucks are coming in this way. They'll drop off and turn around effectively. What we want to probably do at this point is give them a new road. We'll give them a brand new road just there. Just so that our truck, you see, can come back this way instead of doing a U-turn in the road. That's one of the reasons why you want to build a road for them. Now back here, we may have to make... I'm just going to pause it a second. Just make that a little bit bigger. Just so that it can cope with the fuel drop-off. And what we're going to do is we're going to nick some of these vehicles now. So these ones that are coming back completely empty, we can change their line to the fuel line. We'll just start gradually nicking some of these trucks that are coming back. And then we're just going to decommission that other line in a second. But it takes time to do it. Okay. Right, so where's our train? Now, if we look at this, we can already see oil sat there. And you might think, how the heck has oil got there so quickly? Because the train's not even been there yet. It's literally on his way this way. There's no way. Well, what's happening is this thing's producing oil and it's deciding, you know what? Instead of just putting it here, I'm going to put it here. Because I know there's a way to get the oil back to where it needs to go. It needs to go to here, doesn't it, on the train. So it's already thinking about where it wants to deploy the oil. Same with this. This fuel here, which it's producing, it's now not putting it on the truck station, but it's now putting it on the train station. And one of the reasons it does that is because this industry knows that this is a quicker journey. This is a quicker route than the truck. And the industry will always prefer quicker routing. So it's already giving away fuel, which makes this line start to become unprofitable very quickly. And this is why I said to you, all hell's going to break loose. Because our trucks are going to start moving next to nothing shortly, as all of the crude stops going here and starts going here. You see what's happening? This is the problem when you switch from truck to train. You start to get this moment where everything just breaks. What we can do is we can have a look at our train here. And we could probably make another one right now and make this profitable if we've got the cash for it. So if we clone that, we'll get another train coming out of here. I'm going to speed this up now. Get another train coming out of here, and he'll grab all that and start working on the line. Meanwhile, I'm going to flick some more trucks over onto the fuel drop, because we're going to have to start decommissioning this other line now. Now, they're all going to the same place. It's just the route that they take is now different. Instead of going here, it's going here. Now, that train should be full. Yes, it is 30. 30 is not a lot out of this lot, but we're going to reconfigure the train shortly and give it a lot more tanks. There's a load of oil for it to pick up already. So by the time it gets there, it can already pick up 30 oil. There's the other one coming back. Got a bit of fuel on it. So we're going to have to borrow some more money, because we're going to need to reconfigure these trains to be a lot bigger. So what you can do, if you want to, like in the past, what you'd have to do is bring a train. I'm just going to slow it down. You'd have to bring a train into the depot to reconfigure it. But what you can do is you can actually do it on the fly now. So if you click on Manage Vehicle, and we want to do this to both of them, so we'll select both of them, and then don't click on Replace. Instead, click on Edit. When you click Edit, it shows the trains at the bottom, and at the top you can reconfigure. So we'll choose a tank car, and we'll add 2, 3, 4. We're going to make it 100 meters if we can afford it. So just keep your eye on the length. We'll go through train config at some point later. That will cost us $2 million. So we'll hit go. And I'm going to repaint it red, because the new tank cars won't be painted red by default. Now when this train comes in, it's now 65. And the advantage of doing that is that it doesn't throw away any stuff that it had on board. If we click on it, you see it picked up the 30 or 30 fuel, and these extra tanks now are empty, but it didn't throw away what it had. Also notice it's doing 45, 43. It's going up a bit of an incline here. So yeah, tractive effort is needed. So we'll speed it up again. And yeah, we're going to start decommissioning this other line. So how do we do that? Well, can't you just sell vehicles as they come back, really, is the easiest way. So like as this one comes back, we can just like say, sell. Just get 12 grand back. Because we don't need all these trucks now. We want the trains to do it. Of course, the ultimate way to do it really is to just delete the lines. So what you do is you come into here and you do manage vehicles, and we'd sell all of these vehicles. So tick on all of them, then click confirm disposal, and go back to the managed line. And on managed line, we can just click X and remove the line completely. So that industry is now never going to put stuff here anymore. It's all going to go here. You can see it's piling up massively. This is where we're starting to scale. We'll start making big money now. So we'll just check how many trucks we've got. So we've got a few trucks running that line, which is more than enough for the fuel drop-off. And yeah, just sit back and let it happen. 25 oil. It's not a lot, but it's going to take time for this to kick off. Now, here's an interesting thing. And we will change this as we go on. If you click on this, you'll notice that it needs 2 crude oil to make 1 oil. So what that means is when our train comes along here, let's say our train, in fact, let's just do it properly. If we click on our train, it carries 65 crude oil, which means when it goes to here, that will be converted to, what, 32.5 oil. which means that the train that then runs here is now only ever going to be half full. When it gets here, that gets converted 1-to-1, so we'll have 32.5 fuel coming back. That is not efficient. That's not efficient, but it will do for now. Yeah, we'll just have the same train doing the whole thing. However, what we will do when we've got a couple more trains is we'll split the line. We'll have dedicated trucks for crude, so dedicated trains for crude, and dedicated trains doing the oil and fuel. Yeah, that will be much more efficient. So that we'll have something that takes crude to here, drops off, comes back empty. Then we'll have something that takes oil to there, brings fuel back, and just does that run. And the crude train will take back whatever surplus fuel was produced, it will bring it back here. That will be more efficient. But we don't really have the trains for it yet. We don't have the money to make that happen, but that's where we're going to go with it. Just be aware of ratios, yeah? 2 crude to 1 oil means that this section of track is now half as efficient as this one, if you like. Anyway, how are we doing financially? Okay, so we can see that the train is starting to break even, which is good. We'll just let it run now, and hopefully it should start making some money. So yeah, we'll pick it up in another 6 to 12 months and see what kind of money we're making. All right, well, a little bit of time has passed, and in terms of profitability, we're doing pretty well. You can see the crude line's almost heading for $1 million profit, which is fantastic. This is what happens with trains. It just, everything's on a bigger scale. It's more investment, more cost, more profit. If we click on the industry, we can see we're actually shipping quite a bit, but we're only transporting 33%. We don't have enough trains on the line. But since a bit of money's accumulated, we should be able to stick another train on this track. And if we do it now, let's do a clone on that. We should see how our contention system works. So let's see what happens here. Train's just come out, and there's one just coming out of that platform, so there's contention. So what happens? This train can't enter this block because of our signaling. Once this gets past here, you'll see that block is released, and then this train can go. There you go. You see how that works? Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense now, but you'll get the idea as we go along. Now, as I said, the problem is the crude is 2-to-1 ratio to everything else. So this oil and this fuel is a 1-to-1 ratio, and this is 2-to-1. We're starting to build up our trains now. We've got 3 on the line. The money's going to start rolling in. In the next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to move the crude on its own and split this line into 2. And you'll see what we have to do some stuff around the track to make that possible. Meanwhile, back down here, I've added a few more trucks on the fuel drop there, because this thing, well, if you look at it, this thing's making decent money. Like the fuel drop itself only makes 36,000, but we're making like 300,000 just out of this industry. Most importantly, though, we've grown this town to like 400, and Loughton is what, 298 and on its way up. If you look, the target pop's 321, and this will grow as we're moving more fuel into it. So things are going in the right direction. But next time we need to change the way that line is working, start paying down some of this debt. And we need to start building up Thatcham and looking at passenger transportation, which is a whole other subject. But for now, we need to let this run for a bit and let our debt go down. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed that one, guys. Until the next one, take care. Happy transporting.